Today's lecture is going to start off with an introduction to what chemistry is. Now, you're not going to be tested on chemistry per se, but you are going to be tested on some of the basic biochemistry principles. So Chapter 2 starts off as the nature of matter, and it starts off telling us that atoms are the basic unit of matter. The parts of atoms are protons, neutrons, and electrons. They are also known as subatomic particles. Subatomic particles. All right, the nucleus is the center of the atom and is made up of protons and neutrons. Okay, so if we take a look at this image right here, we see in the middle those blue circles with the plus sign and the red circles that are empty. So what that means is that the protons in the middle, in the nucleus, contain a positive charge, and the neutrons, the red dots, have no charge. And as we see circling the nucleus, the negatively charged electrons. So, right here, electrons are the negatively charged particles. They're the same number of protons and electrons in each atom. So if we have the same number of protons and electrons, protons being positively charged, neutrons carrying no charge. So we have the same number of protons and electrons, we have the same number of positives and negatives. And since you have the same number of positives and negatives, there's going to be no net charge on it, unless, of course, you lose or gain electrons. All right? And neutrons carry no charge, but they contribute to the overall mass of the atom. The electrons, even though they're negative and they're there, are so small that they do not contribute to the mass. So they have even though they're so small, they have a very strong negative charge to counteract the much larger positively charged protons. Now, elements are pure substances that consist of entirely one type of atom. All right, so gold and silver, these are pure substances made up of only gold atoms or silver atoms. And we see these elements on the periodic table of elements, which lists all the possible elements. Isotopes are atoms of the same element, but they have a different neutron configuration. So the number of neutrons is changed between the elements. Radioactive isotopes are isotopes that are unstable and break down over time. Now here's the periodic table of the elements. And we see right here it has the chemical symbol, which tells you which element it is. It has the atomic number, the atomic mass, all of that stuff. This stuff is not going to come into play for us. All right? We are only going to deal with some of these elements. If you look in the top row of the right side, we are going to deal with carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, those three right in a row, and right below the nitrogen, the phosphorus. We're really going to deal with those. Sometimes the sulfur, which is right next to the phosphorus. All right? And the other one that we're going to deal with is the hydrogen, which is in the far upper left-hand corner. Okay? Those are the only elements we're really going to deal with. Now we'll see some NaCl, which is sodium chloride, table salt, things like that, but for the most part, that stuff is not going to be dealt with in terms of anything other than calling it what it is. Okay? Compound is a substance formed by a chemical combination of two or more elements in definite proportions. So you're going to put two or more elements together and form a compound. Molecules are the smallest unit of most compounds. So compounds they're going to be written with a shorthand, such as H2O, meaning two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. So what this is going to do is this is going to show us how much of each element is in the compound. A compound can combine two poisonous elements to create a non-poisonous compound. Like I said before, NaCl, table salt, comes together and we use it. Whereas chlorine, we know, is a cleaning supply, and if you eat chlorine, it's going to kill you. So bonds are a means by which two or more elements are held together. The two main types of bonds are ionic bonds, where one or more electrons are transferred from one atom to another, and covalent bonds, when electrons are shared between atoms. Van der Waals forces are when oppositely charged regions of a molecule have a slight attraction. So this information is not going to be seen on your exam. This will be used in chemistry next year or the year after. But what we're doing is we are providing a foundation for you so that you know what's being talked about when we go through this information.